All right, things are happening, you guys. Nate Diaz has a new offer, or at the very least is being openly recruited. Nick Diaz, his brother, is coming back. I just watched an interview with Cesar Gracie, and there's some new things to report there. And then Khamzat Chimaev makes made a response that I think is like kind of I don't know, silly's not really the right, like I can't use the word silly in the direction of anything Khamzat does. He's too serious of a guy to use the word silly. But I certainly will say misguided or, God, I don't know. We'll get into it, right? He made a response to someone that I was like, that doesn't belong. Like that's a thing that you should not say, you know? Now you might be able to say it in the future, but not yet, right? Now, before we get into it, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. I was a little light on videos this weekend. I was very, very busy, but we're going to make up for that today because I got a lot of topics. We're going to do this video. I'm going to go live in a little while. I'm going to talk about, Kamaru Usman's brother winning Ultimate Fighter. And then we'll talk about what everybody's thinking about that. Like what every single person on earth is thinking about that. And then we'll go from there. So if you like it, subscribe, ring the bell, tell all your friends. And also, this video is brought to you by Yo Kratom. If you don't know what Kratom is, you don't need to worry about it. But if you do, and you go buy it at smoke shops, and you spend $1 million, you can get it online at yokratom.com, YOKRATOM.com for $60 a kilogram. It is absolutely as good as anything you'll get in the store at 1/5 the price. It is what I get. Gets here in 2 days. It's not like you order things and it takes a year to, like literally it gets here in 2 days. 2 days. So go give it a look, yokratom.com. All right, so here's the deal. So there's obviously a lot going on with Nate Diaz. We've done plenty of videos about this. And there's this one overarching thing that I think everybody has just assumed is the case, which is if Nate does not sign with UFC, right, which it sounds like he's at least not going until he's a free agent. But if he doesn't sign with UFC, he's going to fight Jake Paul, right? Like that's what he's doing. And I think that's a fair assumption. And there is a very specific reason for that. And the reason is it's an acronym that I coined myself. It is WTFEIGD. And that is what the fuck else is he going to do? Right? I coined it just now. What the fuck else is he going to do? If he doesn't go fight Jake Paul and he doesn't sign with the UFC, what else is he going to do? You know? Like this is a one offer deal. This is why the UFC can do what they do. We're going to talk about the business there too. Like this is why UFC can be so hard on fighter pay. Is because this is supply and demand, you know, like, or I don't know. This is this is why monopolies are frowned upon. This is why you need leverage. This is why every single professional, sports organization. And again, I'm not advocating for this. This is not in my thing, but like this is the reason why players have unions for all these other sporting event things. Like I say I know the fight business. I know the fight business in terms of I know how to, like which guys can be valuable. I understand the mechanisms for like, you need these stars and this is why and et cetera. But like in terms of how you would possibly like fighter union, that's well outside my purview, but these negotiations all come back to what the fuck else are they going to do? So it's either Jake Paul or the UFC, or now apparently PFL is throwing their hat in the ring, right? PFL wants to sign Nate Diaz. So the CEO of the PFL said they want Nate. Now, first off, would the PFL be doing a good job as a fight organization trying to establish themselves in a very competitive, very challenging space if they did not make a play at the biggest free agent in a very, very long time? No, of course not. Of course they're going to say that. Like, of course they're going to try to go after Nate. That would be insane if they didn't. But is it realistic, right? Like, is it realistic? Like, so as an example, there is a certain level of fighter where PFL can make a real play and potentially recruit them away. As an example, Anthony Pettis is getting paid $750K per fight. Okay, $750K. Now, I will say that apparently that was so much money that he decided that like he doesn't care about fighting very much anymore because he's lost every single fight since he went there. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think, has Anthony Pettis won a single fight since he went to PFL? Let's find out real quick. You guys just sit tight, okay? Anthony Showtime Pettis has 1-1. So since he went to PFL, he is 1-4. 1-4. And if I can do math, that means that since April of 2021, it is now August of 2022. So that's like 16 months. That's 5 fights at 750,000. That's $3.75 million. Okay. Now that means he'll probably take home, after paying out his coaches and paying taxes, etc., call it 1.8. Now that should really stick a fucking like a dick just straight in the ass of anybody who actually cares about financials, where you're like, wait, really? You make 3.7, you bring home less than 2? Yeah, that's how it works. But anyway, that's clearly way more money than he would have made at the UFC. Way more money. And if he would have started winning, they could have, if he would have kept winning, they would have really built a thing. He could have done this for a few years, but whatever. So guys like Anthony Pettis can potentially go to the PFL. They could pay him that money, and it might even be worth it. Like, Anthony Pettis was a big draw for PFL. Like, that was the first time I was ever like, okay, yeah, I'm going to watch, was when he was fighting. And again, when he fought again, and then again when he fought again. Like, it's like, but at a certain point, you're like, okay, he clearly is not trying very hard, or he's just done, or whatever. But like, if Nate Diaz went to the PFL, everyone's going to watch. Everyone. But Nate is a guy who can make tremendous money at the UFC. Okay. If they offer Nate $1.5 million a fight, you think that UFC can't match $1.5 million? And like bottom line, does PFL have $6 million to offer Nate per fight? I doubt it. It might be worth it, but I doubt it. And if they offered him 6, all that's going to happen is that they would create a bidding war, and the UFC would end up offering more, because Nate is worth that money. Like, Nate Diaz is one of the very rare people who's actually worth that money. Do you know what I'm saying? And under normal circumstances, the fighters are under contract. They don't have free agency, and they're not even close to as big as stars as Nate is. That's why Nate has played this so smart, because if he gets into free agency, now he can get into bidding wars with the UFC. It's not just about them being like, all right, come on, Nate. Like, come on, man, re-sign. Hey, here's more money. It's like, more money against what? They're all, well, versus our last offer. It's like, all right, no, I'm good. Well, okay, well, here's a little bit more money. It's like, more money versus what? Well, versus our last offer. Okay, all right. Well, the day that I'm a free agent, I get to go see what someone else will pay me. So like, if you're offering me $3 million a fight right now, and then now I finally get to go see if someone's willing to pay me 8 to 9 to 10, then it's just one of those situations where, like, normally fighters are not in a position where they can go and like look for other options, because they used to not be able to get out of their contracts, right? But now people are getting out of their contracts. And so the UFC is inevitably going to have to start paying people more, because they're going to get into situations like, they can't have that many, they can't lose that many guys. Like, Anthony Pettis was towards it. Like, they can't just all of a sudden start losing a bunch of people who still have some clout. You know what I mean? But anyway, do I think that Nate is likely to sign with PFL? No, of course not. Like, so what the fuck else is he going to do? Yeah, he's not going to PFL. I don't think. That would be insane. I think he's going to go fight Jake Paul, potentially. Jake Paul has a pretty poor track record of getting to the ring right now, and it's not his fault. Like, this is not Nate's fault. Or, I'm sorry, this is not Jake Paul's fault at all. But like, I mean, what else are we going to say here, dude? Like, he was supposed to fight Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury didn't show. They threw Tyron Woodley in there. Supposed to fight Tommy Fury again. Tommy Fury, for whatever reason, doesn't make it. Then he's going to do Rockman. Rockman can't do, like, that's 3 in a row where the opponent he was supposed to have did not make it, right? That, like, what that looks like to me is a very, very unstable business model, And so if you're Nate, you want to go get that money right now, dude, because who knows what this looks like. And just as a side note that I'll just throw in there, because I don't know if there's necessarily a whole other video to do about this, certainly not one that I could, make a title kind of catchy enough that anyone would click on. But I saw this footage, that Rockman put out, like, check me out, boxing up Jake Paul. Look at me. Look at Jake Paul running from me when we were sparring. And look at me boxing him up. Okay. First of all, where the fuck was that footage when you guys were set to fight, dude? Like, why are you putting this out now that the fight's canceled? You remember didn't you guys see the clip that Jake Paul put up where he was like, where he was when he was in the ICU and he's all the fight's still on, but fuck, I'm like, my back hurts so much from carrying that. Like, no one I'm ever fighting is helping. Like, no one ever helps promote a fight. Like, yeah, dude, you had that fucking footage and you didn't like, why wouldn't you have put that shit out before, dude? Like, I mean, unless it was in your contract, no showing any sparring footage. Which, I mean, that would seem pretty stupid to me because that would help hype the fight. Like, dude, the bottom line is, people still think Jake Paul's a joke. I mean, I don't. But some people do. They're, it's Jake Paul. And every time you see him sparring with a fucking pro boxer like Rockman Jr., you're like, dude, he's fucking legit. There's nothing in that sparring footage that makes me go like, whoa, Rockman's like fucking, I mean, Rockman's a legit boxer too. But like, I watch Jake, I'm like, damn, dude. Like, damn. I mean, but I'm looking at him as like a person who has gone in and fucking like sparred people. I'm looking at him like, in a headgear and I'm like, dude, he'd fuck me up. Like, I mean, just straight up. Like, that's how I look at him. I'm just like, if I'm watching someone sparring, I'm just thinking like, okay, what would it be like to be in there with him? I'm like, dude, this guy is fucking dangerous, man. He's fucking good. I mean, good, not Canelo good, but like fucking good, like legit. He's good, dude. Plain and simple. So, I don't know. I just think, I think Jake needs Nate. Nate needs Jake. I don't know what fucking weight class they're going to do it at, though, because I mean, I don't know, dude. Rockman is fucking huge. I mean, Nate's bigger than you think in person, but I mean, Rockman's fucking 230. I know they're trying to get, anyway, whatever. That'll work itself out. So anyway, whatever. PFL's not going to get Nate. I don't think. But Nick Diaz is going to come back, it sounds like. So I just watched an interview on Submission Radio that Caesar did, and Caesar basically said, like, Nick wants to come back, and this time he wants to do it for him. There's plenty of other things he can do. He can teach. He can do whatever, and like, he's a phenomenal teacher. I have heard that person. Like I'm like, our school in California was Caesar School. Like, I've plenty of people that know them all really well. And everybody that I've ever talked to has said that. They're like, dude, training with Nick is like, he's great to train with. Like, he's like really, really great. So if that's what his kind of long-term future ends up being, is being like an amazing jiu-jitsu instructor, that's good for him, dude. That's fucking awesome. Because there are a lot of fighters that are exceptional fighters and are not good trainers. Like, it's a totally different thing. It's a completely different thing. And I'll say this right now too. I have trained at enough gyms now and trained with enough really, really, really good guys that I know the difference. Like, where I train now, Six Blades in Lake Travis, outside of Austin, with Victor Hugo, world champion, Steve Hargett, world champion. Like, that is a spot where you are going to learn to be very, very good at jiu-jitsu very, very quick. Like, I've learned more there in a week than I did literally in 3 months at other schools. Like, I'm being told, I'm not like exaggerating. Like, that really is what my like jiu-jitsu experience is like now. At Six Blades Lake Travis, like, I learned more. It's just the way that they do it, dude. It's like, I don't know. Like, I've always felt like, now I'm really going sidetrack, but I'm just going to say this anyway. So at other schools, not Caesar School, but like at other schools that I was at in between, like, I always felt like every day you'd be working. Like, it's like, you do this, and then submission. It's like, you do this, and then submission. Like, there's every day you're working like a new submission. And I was always kind of like, at first I'm like, all right, I get it. But like, the more I trained with Steve and realized, like, he's like, dude, he's like, that way of doing it makes no sense, because you're never, ever going to be in position to finish a submission like that against anyone who's even moderately good. He's like, you might be able to get those things on people who like just walked in off the street, but if you're not good enough to get yourself in positions to actually do this, what's the point? And I just started thinking about that every time when I was training. I was like, okay, yeah, this is a cool submission, but like, could I actually ever pull this off against anyone that was good? And I'm like, no. And we just train completely differently at Six Blades, where it's all like really like, this is a situation you're in all the fucking time, and here is how you handle it. And then when I'm actually sparring, I'm like, oh, I like learned something today. Like, I'm doing something that is really applicable and useful. Anyway, sorry, that's way off the deep end. But anyway, Nick's going to probably come back. And you can come beat me up at Six Blades in Lake Travis if you like, and train with Victor and Steve. Victor is going to fight at ADCC next month, which is going to be really exciting. Anyway, so like, the last thing. So Khamzat, right? So Khamzat's response, it's not related to Nate. It's related to Masvidal, right? So Masvidal and Khamzat got into it today or this week or whatever, right? Like Masvidal's like, yeah, I'll break his face, something like that, whatever. Like he was like, but like the long story short, Masvidal was like, I'll break his face. And Khamzat responded with a picture of Masvidal unconscious after getting knocked out by Kamaru, right? And I looked at that and I was like, no, that's not an appropriate response from Khamzat. And I'll tell you exactly why. I know Khamzat's a gangster. I know that obviously, he's a killing machine. And I know he's undefeated. And I know no one has beat him. And thus, he's kind of in a position he can kind of say whatever he wants. But not really. Because he's never fought anyone as good as Kamaru. And Kamaru knocked out Gilbert Burns, who took Khamzat to the wire, right? So I've always had a problem with fighters like taking credit for another man's work, It's like when Aldo gloated when Diaz beat Conor the first time. I was like, man, that's like, dude, he knocked you out in 13 seconds. Cheering that he lost to another guy, internally you could be happy, but not publicly, dude. Not publicly, And so Khamzat's saying like, oh, look, you got slept by, if he got slept by someone that Khamzat had fought and beat, or basically anyone except for Kamaru Usman, then I'd be like, okay. But dude, it's Kamaru Usman. You have not fought him. If you fight Kamaru the way that you fought against Burns, that's going to be exactly what your fate is also. I mean, that just plain and simple. If he stood with Kamaru exactly the way, 3-round stand-up fight, like he did against Burns, throw punches just like he did, he is going to sleep. Like that, bottom line. Now, it's a different fight. I think that Khamzat will certainly try to, wrestle Kamaru and get him to the ground, because if he can put him on his back, it's a completely different, equation than with Gilbert. But I don't know, dude. To me, that response, I was like, no, that's Kamaru Usman, dude. Kamaru is that good. That's my point. Kamaru is that good that taking credit for a knockout that he did when you have not fought him does not make sense to me. This is no disrespect to Khamzat, obviously. I'm just saying, I just don't. It's not like a relevant point. Masvidal says, "I'll break your face." He says, "Oh, you got knocked out by this guy, who's the number one pound for pound guy in the world, that knocked out the dude that I just fought and who took me into super deep water." I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, that's what I got. I've been talking long enough. I love you guys. I'm about to go live later probably and talk about Kamaru Usman's brother, and we can talk about what everybody's thinking. Everyone is thinking. Peace.